ghost stories. And if you guys like this ghost story that I'm about to tell you, go ahead and leave a like. If you want to hear another true ghost story of mine that happened to me, leave a comment and I'll get right to it. I'm out of breath. Sorry. Okay. So, this first ghost story actually intertwines with my mom. So, when my mother was a child, she and her mother and her brother lived in an apartment building, like back in the 70s. And my mom had this little beautiful biracial friend, the cutest little girl. She had these beautiful braids in her hair. This little girl and my mom, they would play every single day. Weeks, months on end, every single day. However, one day, my mom went to go play with her friend. My mom went down a few blocks to her friend's apartment, and instead of seeing her friend down there waiting for her, my mom saw police cars, ambulances, gurneys. My grandmother, my mom's mom, saw the scene, and she went down and asked what happened. Now, before I go into any kind of details, there's some triggering things here about to come up. Child abuse. If you don't want to hear this, pause this video and click away. Okay. My grandmother went down and she spoke to the police, and she found out that the parents of this little girl that my mom was best friends with, the parents stripped that little girl down, took all her clothes off, took all of her twin brother's clothes off, and beat them to death with belts and whatever else they could find. Beat them to death. My grandmother went back to my mom and she's like, "Honey, you can't play with your friend anymore because your friend went to heaven." My mom, being a child, had no idea what was going on, and she's like, "Mom, I don't want my friend to go to heaven." Many years later, when my mom was like 17 or 18, I don't know why, but my grandmother thought it was a good idea to move herself, my mom, and my mom's brother into the apartment that my mom's best friend and her twin brother got brutally murdered in. I don't know why I don't know why she did that. But one day my mom was sitting in the tub taking a bath, and where the bathroom was, you look down the hallway as you're sitting in the tub, and there was my mom's bedroom. So my mom's scrubbing up, and she looks down that hallway, and she sees a naked, biracial, transparent figure running into her room and jumping into the mirror and disappearing. My mom was so scared. She had long forgotten about her friend and what happened years prior. My mom rushed downstairs. My grandmother was down there having company. My mom did not care. She rushed down and she's like, Mom, there's something that ran into my room and jumped in a mirror." That's when my grandmother decided to tell my mom, "Honey, the apartment that we are living in right now is the same apartment that your little friend and her twin brother were beaten to death by her parents years prior." Oh my God, my mom was so angry. It was at that point that my mom realized that she saw the ghost of her little friend trying to run away. Sorry, my ring got in the way. So, where do I come into all of this? Back in the 90s, we actually, me and my brother and my parents moved up into the same apartment complexes up there. And we actually didn't live too far every single day religiously. She was my best friend. She was so beautiful. I played with her for maybe a year every single day until my dad found us a better living environment. The week before we moved out of the apartment complex, I didn't see my friend as much anymore. And I gotta say, every time I played with this little friend, she never wanted me to go down to her apartment. Like, I couldn't go down and get a drink or anything. I wasn't allowed anywhere near her apartment. She just wouldn't let me. I met her twin brother once. But I was more focused on the girl because all little girls want a little girlfriend, you know, like, to play with. So, we eventually moved out and I never saw that little girl again. In my adult years, I wanted to maybe find this little girl and reconnect with her, and, you know, and I told my mom, I was like, Mom, do you remember that little biracial girl with the braids up in so-and-so complex, and I used to play with her every day? My mom's jaw just dropped and she just looked at me and I was like, what? And she's like, first of all, when you were a child, I saw you playing with nobody. She's like, there were no other children up there besides you and your brother. She said, secondly, you just described my friend from back in the 70s, the one that was brutally murdered. And I was like, what are you talking about? And that's when my mother told me the story about how her friend got brutally murdered and just everything. And I was shocked and horrified because I'm like, so you mean to tell me that when I was like 4 years old, or five, like, about 4, I was playing with a ghost? Like, I was literally playing with the ghost of this child. And my mom made a good point. She told me that she feels that this little friend of hers from back in the 70s maybe knew that I was the daughter of her now adult friend, if that makes sense. So that's why she wanted to play with me. Also, the fact that I was the only child up there other than my brother. So yeah, I played with a little ghost girl when I was 4 years old. I played with her every day for a year. And in my adult years, it does make sense as to why I was never allowed to go to her apartment or visit her family or anything. Unfortunately, I'm pretty positive the parents that killed these 2 kids were set free. I have so many things to say about that. I recently went back up to the apartment complexes, and I looked all the way down to the apartment where that incident happened. And I closed my eyes and I was like, listen, you have to move on. Like, you and your brother got to move on. Like, you need to go to the light, okay? Like, you can't be stuck here, you know? And I said a little prayer over them, and I really, really hope that they're free now, because that whole entire incident was just heartbreaking. Like, I can't even, like, for those of you that know me, I am a mom. My daughter is 6. Her name is Zelda. 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 I couldn't even imagine doing something like that to my child, or any child for that matter. So it's like the whole thing was just so horrible and just devastating and just, oh my God. Like, it just makes me want to tear up, because it's like you heard the saying, some people should not have kids, and that is so true. But yeah, I hope those 2 little children, those beautiful little angels of God, I really hope they did move on. They're not stuck here after all that time. first true ghost story that intertwines with my mom, and her friends and everything. So yeah, that's a true ghost story, mind you. So, again, if you guys liked this story or found it interesting, you want to hear some more, give me a thumbs up, leave a comment, and I will go ahead and tell another one of my true ghost stories on my YouTube. But for now, I got some things to do, so I'm gonna leave you guys. So sorry, goodbye. I gotta go. Okay. I wish you all a good night. Don't be too scared.